As we enter into 2025, we are about to hit a huge boom in primer production, and we have all of the numbers for you. Now, before I get into it, I do want to take a moment and thank those of you who support this channel through Patreon. We cannot do what we do without your support. As you may or may not know, the algorithm of YouTube is not for us. It's pretty much against us, and that really limits what we can put out on this channel. But thanks to you, the patrons, we're focusing on what it is you want to see. Here we are in 2025. And when we look back over the last 5 years of the ammo industry, specifically what's taking place with primers, there's been a lot going on. And I'm here to tell you that we are about to enter into a very, very exciting time, because the primer industry in 2025 is about to boom unlike anything you have ever seen. Because if you go all the way back to 2020, really what you had was about, some would argue, less than $500 million industry of primers. Just the primers, not the ammo, but just the primers. Not just being sold to individuals, but being sold to ammo manufacturers. And the growth rate that we saw when the ammo shortage hit in 2020 was very significant, because as consumers, what we saw was there didn't seem to be any primers in 2020, but the reality was that the reality is primer production increased overnight. People that were manufacturing primers 8 hours a day were now manufacturing primers 24 hours a day. Now, once we entered into 2022, what we saw was the ammo industry, specifically primer production, had increased dramatically. And we had the raw material, which is something we didn't have in 2022. So ultimately what we're looking at in this video is we're looking at, as we go into 2025, what is it that is about to happen to the primer industry? Because it's about to boom big time. So let's take a look at it. In 2025, ultimately what you have most of the primer production focused on small rifle, large rifle, small pistol, large pistol, shotgun shells, and rimfires of various calibers. And the biggest producers of these before 2025 was JCM, Remington, Arms Corps, Winchester, CCI, Campagna, Brasileirado, Ruag, Amotech, Fiocchi, Federal, Unis, Genex, Shedite. And now as we go into 2025 here in the United States, we have White River Energetics opening up one of the largest primer production plants in Arkansas that this United States has ever seen. But in addition to really the primer producers increasing, you also have a serious increase in machining technology over the last 5 years. Very significant increase in production machinery. Very significant manpower increase since 2020. Incorporation of artificial intelligence into the primer production. And what we mentioned a few minutes ago was a dramatic increase in raw material. Now, with there seeming to be a trade war going on, as a side note, I'm not sure how that raw material is going to play out, but assuming everything stays normal, what we're about to see is a massive boom, because you have more players in the primer industry, you have more facilities in the primer industry, you have more machine equipment, more manpower, more AI, you have more raw material. All these things equals what I believe in 2025 is going to be a massive primer boom. In other words, it is definitely a buyer's market. And really, I would argue this is the first time the primer industry has been a buyer's market since probably 2019. And I believe that because it's a buyer's market, competition is going to be heavy in the second and third quarter of 2025. So heavy that people are going to be dropping prices like crazy. There's going to be so many primers rolling out over the next 2 quarters of 2025. Now, I do want to say as a side note, obviously I can't predict the future, and I'm assuming everything stays normal. If, of course, there's World War III, some sort of crazy pandemic, some sort of crazy civil unrest, there's a lot of variables here that would continue to keep the purchase rate of ammo and primers at a consistent level. But assuming none of that stuff happens, which would increase the rate of purchases dramatically of ammo, and that might raise prices. But assuming none of those things take place, I truly believe that we are entering into something that might be as beautiful as pre-2020 primer prices as we enter into the second and third quarter of 2025. So I'm going to recommend, if you're about to go crazy, I'm buying a ton of ammo, buying a ton of primers, I'd probably wait a little bit, obviously get what you need as you need it. But in the end, I strongly believe that we are entering into a massive boom of primer production and a heavy competition for your dollars that is going to dramatically bring the prices of primer, and as a result, the prices of ammo down dramatically as we see this primer boom take place in 2025. This is great news. So there you go, man. Any thoughts or insight on any of this, definitely put it below. I do want to take a moment and say most people watch the channel, hey, they're not subscribers. Click that subscribe button. Greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.